Today we have August the 26th, Seeking Out Shipwrecks. Interesting that there be an entry about ships. My roommate and very good friend is currently on a mission at the moment with Sea-Watch. That's an organization that is doing extremely good work saving refugees, people in flight or on boat from in the Mediterranean. So if you don't know them, check them out. Sea-Watch. All right, Seeking Out Shipwrecks. The quotation is as follows. I was shipwrecked before I even boarded. The journey showed me this, how much of what we have is unnecessary, and how easily we can decide to rid ourselves of these things whenever it's necessary, never suffering the loss. This comes from Seneca, Moral Letters 87.1. The explanation is, Zeno, widely considered to be the founder of the school of Stoicism, was a merchant before he was a philosopher. On a voyage between Phoenicia and Piraeus, could be pronouncing that incorrectly, apologies if so, his ship sank along with its cargo. Zeno ended up in Athens, and while visiting a bookstore, he was introduced to the philosophy of Socrates and later an Athenian philosopher named Crates. These influences drastically changed the course of his life, leading him to develop the thinking and principles that we now know as Stoicism. According to the ancient biographer Diogenes Laertius, Zeno joked, "Now that I've suffered shipwreck, I'm on a good journey." Or according to another account, "You've done well, Fortune, driving me thus to philosophy," he reportedly said. The Stoics weren't being hypothetical when they said that we ought to act with a reverse clause, and that even the most unfortunate events can turn out to be for the best. The entire philosophy is founded on that idea. Alright, so seeking out shipwrecks. I think there's two things that are addressed in this entry, in my opinion. The first one being that sometimes shedding what is unnecessary can make us feel lighter and we will not feel the loss. And on the other hand, sometimes what can be seen as a negative event or occurrence can actually be for the positive. So the first one, getting rid of the things that we don't need. When I read that, it reminded me of my younger days when I backpacked for a good few months in Australia. And I was there for 6 months, and it was the first time I'd ever done something like that before. And on my back was everything that I needed to survive. And that consisted of 5 shirts, 5 pairs of pants maybe, a couple of socks, etc. 2 pairs of shoes, I think. And it felt extremely freeing to not have that much stuff, and this can probably be fleshed out into an entire conversation or monologue about that experience and how freeing it was. But I do think that that is something that this entry reminded me of. And I remember that when I came home and I saw all of the clothes and the things that I had, I was momentarily overwhelmed because I thought to myself, I don't need all this stuff. I've just survived for half a year with, like I said, not very much. And it seemed a bit absurd that I would have that much stuff, that I clearly didn't need. So that's the one part of what it reminded me of. Now the second part about even the most unfortunate events turning out to be for the best, I think this is a difficult one, right? Because when hardship befalls us, it's very, very difficult for us to zoom out and think to ourselves, this is making me stronger. But it reminds me of something that I recently read, and it was around the fact that only in times of hardship and adversity, do we really learn about who we are, or do we really kind of show who we are? Because of course it's very easy to be happy and be strong when the times are good, but actually when our character comes out, or where we show who we are in terms of character, that can only come out when the times are rough, right? When we're being challenged. And that's why it's so important to remember that when the times are rough, to really lean into and to dig out our strength and our character. And of course this is a huge part of Stoicism, is how do we use those times of hardship and try to still be stable in those times, right? And of course, trying still to be stable in the happy times as well. Coming back to the quote that this too shall pass, and even in times of severe shortage or adversity, and in times of elation and extreme happiness, we should always try to maintain that consistency and that middle ground. So yeah, I think that this entry is quite a good one. It made me reflect quite a bit. To wrap it up, we say it again: I was shipwrecked before I even boarded. The journey showed me this: how much of what we have is unnecessary, and how easily we can decide to rid ourselves of these things whenever it's necessary, never suffering loss. So I urge us all to think about, what can we give up, whether that's material things, whether that's clothes that we haven't used for the past 6 months that somebody else can benefit from, whether that's older versions of ourselves that are no longer serving us anything good, or whether that's habits that, we know we should get rid of, but we don't. So think about that for the day.